It was about 4 years ago, deep in the Appalachian foothills, miles away from the nearest paved road. My friend, let's call him David, and I had been scouting locations for a photography project on Decay. We found this place on a satellite map, a massive structure, swallowed by the tree line, sitting in a valley that barely got any direct sunlight except for high noon. We hiked in around 3 in the afternoon. The light was that heavy, golden, late autumn sun, the kind that makes everything look nostalgic and warm, even when it's dead. The house was a sprawling Victorian mansion, the wood weathered to a dark charcoal gray. It didn't look evil. It just looked sad, like it had been waiting for someone to come back for 50 years. We stepped onto the porch. The wood was soft, spongy under our boots. I remember the smell distinctly. Usually, these old places smell like mold and wet earth. This place smelled dry. It smelled like old paper and dried lavender. It was unexpected. It was inviting. We went inside. The front door was unlocked, swinging open with a heavy rusted groan that echoed too long in the foyer. We spent the first hour just documenting. The light was streaming in through the dirty windows, illuminating dust motes that hung in the air like suspended gold dust. It was quiet, not the silence of nature, but the silence of a vacuum. No birds, no wind, just the sound of our boots on the floorboards. David went upstairs to check the bedrooms. I stayed on the ground floor, photographing the library. It was full of books. Not rot, just books. Thousands of them. I pulled one off the shelf. It was a medical text from 1920. I opened it, and the pages were pristine. No yellowing. It was as if it had been bought yesterday. That was the first thing that felt off. It didn't fit the decay of the exterior. Around 4:30, the light started to change. The sun dipped below the ridge, and the golden warmth vanished instantly. The house turned cold. The shadows stretched out, long and thin, across the floor. I called out to David. "Losing light," I said. "Let's wrap up." He didn't answer. I walked to the bottom of the grand staircase. "David, nothing. Just the house settling." Creak, tap, tap. I started walking up the stairs. The air got colder with every step. At the top of the landing, the hallway stretched out in both directions, lined with closed doors. It was much darker up here. The windows were covered in grime. I turned left, towards the master bedroom. I saw David standing at the end of the hall, facing a wall. Just standing there, rigid. "Dave?" I said, keeping my voice low. The acoustics in the hall were strange. My voice sounded flat, dead. He turned around slowly. His face was pale, shiny with sweat. He looked at me, then looked back at the wall. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. "Hear what?" "Someone breathing," he said. "Right on the other side of this wall." I walked over to him. It was a blank section of plaster. I put my ear against it. I held my breath. Silence. Then, a scratch. A slow, deliberate scratch, like a fingernail dragging down the plaster on the other side. "It's just rats," I said, trying to convince myself. "Rats in the walls." David shook his head. "Rats don't breathe like that." It sounded like a man. A large man. Just inhaling. "Let's go," I said. The vibe had shifted. The house didn't feel sad anymore. It felt predatory. We turned to head back to the stairs, but something stopped us. The door to the first bedroom on the right, the one we had passed to get here, was open. "I didn't open that," David whispered. "Neither did I." We shone our flashlights into the room. It was a nursery. A child's room. There was a crib in the center, covered in a white sheet. But the sheet, it was moving. Just slightly, oscillating, as if a draft was hitting it. But the windows were painted shut. The air was dead still. We stood there, paralyzed, watching the sheet flutter. And then, the smell hit us. It wasn't lavender anymore. It was sulfur. Matches. Burnt matches. "We need to leave," David said, his voice cracking. "Now." We moved fast, heading for the stairs. But as we reached the landing, I looked down into the foyer. It was pitch black down there now. The sun was gone, and in the darkness of the foyer, right at the bottom of the stairs, I saw something. It was a shape, darker than the dark. A silhouette standing by the front door. It looked like a person, but taller, stretched. The proportions were wrong. The arms were too long. They hung down past the knees. I grabbed David's arm and pulled him back. "Don't look down there," I hissed. "What?" "There's someone at the door." We backed away from the stairs. We were trapped on the second floor. The only way out was the servants' stairs at the back of the house, assuming they weren't blocked. We moved through the hallway again, heading deeper into the house. The floorboards screamed under our weight. It felt like we were walking on bones. We found the back staircase behind a narrow door in the servants' quarters. It was steep, narrow, and pitch black. I went first, flashlight cutting a thin beam in the gloom. Halfway down, I stopped. The steps below me were wet. I knelt down and touched the wood. It was sticky, thick. I shone the light closer. It was fresh, viscous, fluid. I didn't want to identify it. I just wiped my hand on my jeans and kept moving. "Careful," I told David. "It's slippery." We reached the ground floor kitchen. It was a large industrial space with rusted iron stoves. We made a beeline for the back door. It was boarded up, heavy planks, nailed from the inside. "Who boards a door from the inside?" David whispered. "Someone who wants to keep something out or keep something in," I said. We were scanning the room for a window we could break when we heard it. Footsteps. Heavy, boot-heel footsteps. Above us. In the hallway we had just left. Thump. 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 They were slow. Deliberate. And they were heading towards the back stairs. Towards us. We froze. If we made a sound, whatever was up there would hear us. The kitchen was a dead end. Then the footsteps stopped. Right at the top of the stairs. Silence stretched out for what felt like an hour. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would echo. And then a voice came down the stairwell. It wasn't a shout. It was a conversational tone. A man's voice. Calm, reasonable. "I know you're down there," it said. "I can smell you." It wasn't a ghost. It sounded like a real, living man, which was infinitely worse. David looked at me, eyes wide with terror. He pointed to a small pantry door in the corner. We moved silently, sliding into the cramped pantry and pulling the door shut, leaving just a crack to see through. We waited. Minutes passed. Then, we heard the creak of the stairs. He was coming down. Through the crack in the door, I saw a beam of light hit the kitchen floor. It wasn't a flashlight. It was a lantern, an old-fashioned kerosene lantern. A figure stepped into the kitchen. He was huge, maybe 6'5". He was wearing filthy, tattered clothes that looked like they were from another decade. But his face was completely blank. I don't mean featureless. I mean, he had a face, but there was no expression. No anger. No malice. Just a slack, empty stare. His eyes were wide, unblinking, staring at nothing. He walked to the center of the room and set the lantern on the table. Then he started to set the table. He reached into his pockets and pulled out invisible plates. He mimed placing them on the table. He mimed placing forks and knives. He was having a dinner party for ghosts. He was humming a tune, a low, discordant melody that didn't resolve. David shifted his weight. The floorboard inside the pantry squeaked. A tiny, high-pitched sound. The man stopped humming instantly. He didn't turn his head. He just froze. "Guests," he whispered. He picked up the lantern slowly. He turned towards the pantry. I held my breath until my lungs burned. He took a step towards us. Then another. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the front of the house. The front door slamming shut? Or opening? The man's head snapped towards the noise. He hissed, a sound like a pressurized steam pipe bursting. He grabbed the lantern and sprinted out of the kitchen, towards the front of the house, moving with a speed that shouldn't have been possible for a man of his size. "Go," I whispered. We burst out of the pantry. We didn't go for the door. We went for the window above the sink. David grabbed a cast iron skillet from the counter and smashed the glass. We scrambled out, cutting our hands on the jagged shards, tumbling into the overgrown weeds of the backyard. We didn't stand up. We crawled. We crawled on our bellies through the high grass until we hit the tree line. Then we ran. We ran through the woods in the pitch black, tripping over roots, whipping branches out of our faces. We didn't stop until we reached the car, a mile away. I fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking so bad I dropped them twice. Finally, the engine roared to life. I threw it in reverse and spun us around. As the headlights swept across the tree line, I saw him. He was standing at the edge of the woods, just standing there, watching us. He wasn't chasing. He was waving. A slow, stiff wave of his hand. We drove in silence for 2 hours. We never developed the photos. I burned the memory card. David moved to the West Coast a month later. We don't talk about that night, but here is the thing that keeps me up at night. The thing that makes this real, tangible horror. A few months ago, I was looking through some old boxes, and I found the jacket I was wearing that night. I hadn't worn it since. I put it on, and I felt something in the pocket. I reached inside and pulled out a piece of paper. It was a Polaroid photo. I didn't take a Polaroid camera with me that day. Neither did David. The photo was of us. It was taken from above. From the top of the staircase, looking down at us in the foyer. We were looking away, towards the door, but right behind us, standing inches from my back, was that man. He was leaning in, close to my ear, smiling. A wide, toothless smile. On the back of the photo, in frantic, scratched handwriting, it said, "Come back. Dinner is served." I burned the jacket, but I can't burn the memory. And sometimes, when the house is quiet and the sun starts to go down, I can smell sulfur, and I can hear that scratching in the walls. Just like he's trying to get out. Or maybe, like he's trying to get in.